Hello everyone, my name is Mackenzie Brown and today I will be presenting part 2 of my Phylum project. For part 2 of my Phylum project, the valid organisms that I will be discussing today are the Pacific sea nettle jellyfish, the ochre sea star, and the sand tiger shark. First, I will begin with organism number 4, the Pacific sea nettle jellyfish. The Pacific sea nettle jellyfish has a common name of jellyfish. Its species name is Crassaua facescens, and it means dusky or dark, which refers to the dusky color of the sea nettle's bell, also known as the body. Some recognizable features of the Pacific sea nettle jellyfish are its thin tentacles, its yellowish red-brown bell, its long spiraling arms, and its radially symmetrical. Here are some images of the Pacific sea nettle, and I also have a video as well. The phylum of the Pacific sea nettle jellyfish is the Cnidaria. Cnidarians have tentacles with stinging nematocysts, which is a capsule containing a barbed thread-like tube that delivers a paralyzing sting. They lack bones and a central nervous system. They are radially symmetrical and diploblastic. They are all aquatic, mostly marine organisms, and the circulatory, respiratory, and excretory systems are absent. The classification of the Pacific sea nettle jellyfish are as follows. Kingdom Animalia, Phylum Cnidaria, Class Cyphozoa, Order Semaeostome, Family Pelagidae, Genus Crassaua. Mode of nutrition. Pacific sea nettle jellyfish are chemoheterotrophs. Chemoheterotrophs are organisms that consume other organisms in order to survive. The Pacific sea nettle jellyfish acquire their energy and carbon source from organic compounds. They eat a wide variety of zooplankton such as crustaceans, comb jellies, small fishes, fish eggs, and invertebrate larvae. This jellyfish follows their prey up and down in the water column in response to the light cycle. As they move through the water with both oral arms and tentacles extended, their tentacles stream below, above, and alongside the bell, creating a large surface area in order to capture their prey. When physical contact is made with their prey, the nematocyst is triggered, causing the nematocyst cell to burst open. The cnidae will then explode from the cell and discharge its toxin into the prey, paralyzing it. The trailing tentacles retract and transport the food up the tentacle to the gastric cavity where digestion occurs. Large prey is partially digested on the oral arms before being transported to the gastrovascular cavity. Mode of reproduction. Pacific sea nettle jellyfish reproduce via gametic meiosis, which is the meiosis that occurs during the formation of male and female gametes, and asexually, which is a type of reproduction that does not involve the fusion of gametes or change in the number of chromosomes. Pacific sea nettles can reproduce both sexually and asexually. Sexual reproduction occurs through broadcast spawning. This is when the male and female sea nettle sexes separately release sperms and eggs into the water column. Once the eggs become fertilized, they develop into planulae, which is larvae, that drifts around the ocean until it finds a hard surface like a rock or an oyster shell and attaches to it. Once the planulae attach their posterior ends to these hard surfaces, they become stationary planicysts. The planicysts go through an asexual reproductive process, developing into tentacle polyps called cyphostomes. If environmental conditions are suitable, a procedure called strobulation begins. In strobulation, miniature medusa-like structures called strobila are formed on a stalk. The strobila buds off as individual ephora, which are young jellies, that develop marginal lobes, sensory structures, tentacles, elaborate oral arms, and finally the bell shape of the adult male or female medusa. Source, range, and distribution. The source was the Georgia Aquarium, located in Atlanta, Georgia. Its range, they're found in the Pacific Ocean, including all of America's West Coast national marine sanctuaries, and their distribution is clumped. Pacific sea nettle jellyfish habitat. During the fall and winter, they live near the water column of the Pacific Ocean in shallow bays and harbors. In the spring and summer, they often form large swarms in deep ocean waters. Because they are pelagic animals, they're subject to ocean currents. By squeezing their bell and pushing water out, they become resistant to these ocean currents, and this is how they are able to persist in their habitat. For their niche, they are a foundational component of marine food webs in the Pacific Ocean, serving as prey for marine birds, sea turtles, fish, and marine mammals. They also serve as both a vehicle and food source for hitchhiking larval and juvenile crabs that can withstand or avoid the stinging tentacles. Many scientists believe that urban runoff and global climate change is altering the nutrient composition and temperature of coastal waters, causing an increase in swarms of sea jellies. As more jellies consume more larval fish, fewer fish survive to become adults. The ecological role of the Pacific sea nettle jellyfish. The Pacific sea nettle jellyfish are predators. Predators are organisms that primarily obtain food by killing and consuming other organisms. Pacific sea nettles help balance the ecosystem by preying on crustaceans, comb jellies, small fishes, fish eggs, and invertebrate larvae. If these jellyfish blooms were to die off, massive quantities of sea nettles will sink out of surface waters and deposit as jelly lakes at the seafloor, choking seafloor habitats of oxygen and thus reducing biodiversity. Removing Pacific sea nettles from the ecosystem will result in overpopulation of their prey. Here are more images of the Pacific sea nettle jellyfish. Organism number 5, the ochre sea star. The ochre sea star species name. Its common name is ochre sea star, purple sea star, or starfish. Its species name is Pisaster ochraceus, and its meaning is sea stars that are orange or purple. Images and recognizable features. The color ranges from brown, yellow, purple, orange, and red. The mouth is on the underside of the body in the middle of the central disc. They have 5 stout arms, which are dotted with rough-feeling, small white blunt spines that form line patterns. And the bottom of each arm is covered with thousands of tiny tube feet tipped in suction cups. Here are some images of the ochre sea star, and I also have a video as well. I also recorded the starfish around the ochre sea stars because I thought they were pretty interesting, how different species of sea stars can be all clumped up together. The phylum of the ochre sea stars is the Echinodermata. Echinodermatas have a star-like appearance and are spherical or elongated. They are exclusively marine animals and possess the power of regeneration. They have poorly developed sensory organs, which include chemoreceptors, tactile organs, and terminal tentacles. They are triploblastic and have a coelomic cavity. The tube feet aids in locomotion. They are spiny-skinned, and they do not have brains. Instead, they have a nerve ring which communicates with the star's radial nerves. The classification for the ochre sea star are as follows: Kingdom, Animalia; Phylum, Echinodermata; Class, Astroidea; Order, Percipilatida; Family, Asteroidae; Genus, Pisaster. Mode of nutrition. Ochre sea stars are chemoheterotrophs. Chemoheterotrophs are organisms that consume other organisms in order to survive. Ochre sea stars acquire their energy and carbon stores from organic compounds. They feed on mussels, clams, snails, barnacles, and sea urchins. They use their 2 feet to grip the shell of its prey and slowly pull it open. They then extrude their stomach so that it can lay on the soft tissue of their prey. Their stomach contains digestive juices that will dissolve all of the prey's soft tissue. Eventually, the sea star's stomach will absorb all of the dissolved material. And normally, this process takes 2 to 3 days for complete digestion. Mode of reproduction. Ochre sea stars can reproduce via gametic meiosis, which is the meiosis that occurs during the formation of male and female gametes, and asexually, which is a type of reproduction that does not involve the fusion of gametes or a change in the number of chromosomes. Ochre sea stars reproduce sexually through broadcast spawning. The males release sperm into the water, and the females release eggs. The fertilized eggs hatch into a larva form that lives as plankton. Eventually, the larvae undergo metamorphosis, settle to the seafloor, and become adults. Ochre sea stars can also reproduce asexually through regeneration or fragmentation. This is when part of an arm and part of the central disc becomes detached from the parent sea star and develops into two independent individual sea stars with the same DNA. Ochre sea star source, range, and distribution. For the source was the Georgia Aquarium, located in Atlanta, Georgia. The range, they're found in the intertidal communities on the Pacific coast of the United States, and their distribution is clumped. Ochre sea star habitat. They are required to live in cold salt water, middle to low intertidal zones on wave-swept rocky shores, and their environment must be plentiful of prey. They cannot live in acidic ocean environments because it will kill them. For their niche, their 2 feet allows it to persist in their habitat. Their 2 feet pulls their prey, pries open its hard shell, and it absorbs all of the nutrients it needs in order to survive. They also balance out biodiversity, and they make sure that their prey doesn't overpopulate the habitat. Ochre sea star primary ecological role. Ochre sea stars are predators. They prey on mussels, clams, snails, barnacles, and sea urchins. Because ochre sea stars are a keystone species, they have a substantial impact on the environment. Mussels are superior competitors for space and may take over the rocky substrate of a large area, but the presence of sea stars allows other animals to use the space that has been emptied of mussels. If ochre sea stars were removed from the ecosystem, the mussels will take over the rocks and other species won't be able to thrive. Here are some more images of the ochre sea star. Organism number 6, sand tiger shark. Sand tiger shark species name. Its common name is sand tiger shark or shark. Its species name is Carcharias taurus, and it means shallow water shark with sharp, jagged teeth. Images and recognizable features. They are brownish gray with rust-colored spots on top and white underneath. They have a narrow, flattened cone-shaped snout. They have very small eyes, and they have a distinctive oblong tail with a notched upper lobe. They display a mouthful of sharp teeth that protrude in all directions, even when the mouth is closed, and they range in length from 6.5 feet to 10.5 feet. Here are some images of the sand tiger shark, and I also have a video. The phylum of a sand tiger shark is the Chordata. Chordatas possess a bilaterally symmetrical body. They are triploblastic. Their nervous system is dorsal, hollow, and single. Their heart is ventral with a closed circulatory system, and they share 4 key features: a notochord, a dorsal hollow nerve cord, pharyngeal slits, and a post-anal tail. The classification of the sand tiger shark are as follows: Kingdom Animalia, Phylum Chordata, Class Chondrichthyes, Order Lamniformes, Family Odontospodidae, Genus Carcharias. Mode of nutrition. Sand tiger sharks are chemoheterotrophs. Chemoheterotrophs are organisms that consume other organisms in order to survive. Sand tiger sharks acquire their energy and carbon source from organic compounds. Sand tigers are the only sharks known to come to the surface and gulp air. By storing the air in their stomachs, they float motionless in the water, making it easier to hunt for prey. Another advantage that they have is their ability to detect electrical current of prey using electroreceptors in their snouts. Their main prey are small fish, small sharks, rays, squid, crabs, and lobsters. Sand tiger sharks are voracious and they stay close to the bottom of the ocean to attack their prey. Mode of reproduction. Sand tiger sharks reproduce via gametic meiosis. This is the meiosis that occurs during the formation of male and female gametes. In order to mate, the male shark grasps the female shark's fins with his mouth. After mating, ovoviviparity reproduction occurs. Sand tiger sharks have a unique variation of ovoviviparity called intrauterine cannibalism, which is very extreme. The female shark has 2 uteri, which produces about 50 eggs each. However, each litter yields just 2 pups, one from each uterus. This is because as the sharks develop their embryonic teeth, they start to eat the other embryos, killing their unborn siblings as well as the other unfertilized eggs. After the gestational period, which is about 9 to 13 months, only 2 3-foot long pups enter the world. Sand tiger sharks have one of the lowest reproductive rates among sharks, producing only 2 pups every 2 years. Source, range, and distribution. For the source was the Georgia Aquarium, located in Atlanta, Georgia. The range, they're found in the western Atlantic from Canada to the Gulf of Maine to Argentina. They're also found in the eastern Atlantic from the Mediterranean to the coast of Cameroon. And they're also found in the Indo-West Pacific. And their distribution is clumped. Sand tiger shark habitat. They are required to live in a saltwater environment or brackish water environment. They are also required to live in sandy coastal waters, shallow bays, estuaries, and rocky or tropical reefs. For their niche, they are supreme predators, so they balance the food web by eating their prey. They also serve as prey to larger sharks. Ecological role. Sand tiger sharks are predators. They feed on small fish, small sharks, rays, squid, crabs, and lobsters. Sand tiger sharks play a huge role in maintaining biodiversity. If sand tiger sharks were to be removed from the ecosystem, there would be a decline in coral reefs and seagrass beds. Also, their prey will begin to overpopulate in the environment. Here are some more images of the sand tiger shark. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you.